So have you ever stopped to think about what your personality really is? Is it just a bunch of labels, I'm an introvert or I'm a creative type? Well, what if it was more than that? What if instead of just describing who you are right now, it could be an actual roadmap for building the life you want? Today, we're going to explore exactly that, how to use the real science of personality as a tool for, well, personal engineering. But first, let's start with something we've probably all felt, that frustration. You get super motivated, you start a new plan, a new workout, a new habit, and then just a few weeks later, you're right back where you started. It's a bummer. So why does this happen over and over again? Why do most of these self-help plans seem totally destined to fail? The answer, when you think about it, is actually incredibly simple. It's because they're not built for you. Most of this advice is generic, right? It's one size fits all. But here's the thing, we aren't one size fits all. These plans fall apart because they just don't account for our unique, pretty stable, and deeply wired-in personality traits. Okay, so if the big problem is that generic advice doesn't work, then the solution has to start with getting a deep, practical understanding of ourselves. The absolute foundation for any real, lasting change has to be genuine self-knowledge. And listen, this isn't just about navel-gazing or thinking deep thoughts. We're talking about huge practical benefits. When you really know your personality, you can set goals that are actually realistic for you, goals that align with your nature. You can get way better at predicting major life outcomes, everything from your career to your relationships. You start to finally see your own recurring patterns, which of course is the first step to doing anything about them. And most importantly, it lets you pick the right strategies for change and get a better handle on your own emotions. That all sounds great, but how do we get that kind of knowledge in a way that's, structured and reliable? Well, luckily for us, science has handed us an absolutely incredible tool to do just that. Let's talk about our blueprint, the Big Five. Now, the Big Five model isn't some pop psychology quiz from a magazine. It's a scientifically validated, really comprehensive, and globally accepted framework for understanding the core pieces of human personality. So you should think of it less like a label and more like an engineering manual for your own mind. This is the map we're going to use. So now that we have our blueprint, how do we actually use it to build something better? This is where it gets really good. This is where we shift from the what to the how. From just understanding ourselves to actually taking action. The whole process really breaks down into this powerful three-step system. It's designed to turn that abstract self-knowledge into a concrete, totally personalized plan for your life. All right, first things first, you need data. You have to measure your baseline. You can't improve what you don't measure, right? By taking a proper, validated personality test, you get a clear, objective starting point. This isn't about guessing. It's about getting a real map of your personality so you can track actual, measurable progress later on. Step 2, you have to make it real. A score on a piece of paper doesn't really mean anything until you connect it to your actual life. So you have to ask yourself the critical question. Okay, my report says I'm low in conscientiousness. What does that actually look like? Does it mean I hit the snooze button 6 times every morning? Does it mean I'm always missing deadlines at work? Connecting those abstract traits to what you do every day is what makes this whole thing actionable. And finally, step 3, you design targeted interventions. Now this is the real game changer. Instead of just grabbing some generic advice you read online, you use your personal blueprint, your results, to pick the exact tools and strategies that are most likely to work for you. And just look at how practical this gets. Say you're high in neuroticism, which basically means you tend to feel negative emotions more often and more intensely. A generic just be positive sticker isn't going to cut it. You need targeted techniques like from cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT, which actually teach you how to reframe those negative thoughts. Or if you're low in conscientiousness, you need really structured habit-building systems like if-then planning. And hey, if you're low in agreeableness, maybe the goal isn't to force yourself to be a people pleaser. Maybe it's to find a job or a role where making tough, impartial decisions is a huge asset. So you see, what this really boils down to is 2 completely different paths you can take. One path is this constant, exhausting battle of fighting your own nature, trying to force yourself to be someone you're not. But the other path, it's about something way smarter, finding your niche. It's about finding the environments, the careers, the relationships where your natural personality isn't a weakness, but a straight-up strength. But, and this is a really fascinating twist, sometimes to really optimize your life, you have to act against the spin. What that means is consciously, deliberately doing the exact thing that feels unnatural to you.
because you know your default setting isn't going to get you to a specific goal you have. It's not about changing your whole personality. It's like a strategic, temporary override.
And you can't forget the final piece of the puzzle. You have to treat this whole thing like a science experiment on yourself. You've got to monitor your progress, track the behaviors you're working on, and maybe even retake the assessment every few months. This is what turns self-improvement from just a vague hope into a dynamic, data-driven process where you can actually see the needle moving. Okay, let's bring all this home. Let's see how this all comes together. Because this isn't just about tweaking a few habits. This is about adopting a completely new and powerful way of thinking. It's about becoming the architect of your own life. So after all that, what's the big takeaway? Let's wrap it all up with one final metaphor that I think really makes it click. I want you to think of your personality as the raw materials you've been given to build your life. It's your own unique supply of stone and wood and metal. Now, you can't fundamentally change what stone is or what wood is, but they are what you have to build with. And the Big Five? Well, that's your engineering blueprint. It's not a judgment on your materials, it's a guide. It shows you the properties of your specific stone, your specific wood, and it tells you the most effective, the strongest ways to use them to construct a stable and meaningful life. So, you have the materials, you have the blueprint. The only question left is the most important one of all. Now, what are you going to build?